Right guys, I'm going to push it live now.
Okay, thanks Vicky. Thanks for joining the call. We're just seeing how the numbers are coming up, and as soon as the numbers settle, we'll start the call. So just there's a couple of minutes. Just wait for a few late joiners. That's up to just over 60 attendees, so that's pretty good. Okay. I'm going to make a start. The numbers seem to be settling down a wee bit. There's probably a few late joiners who will welcome as they join along. So, my name is Andy McDonald. I'm the Senior Innovation Manager at the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult and the Programme Director of the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. So thank you very much for joining the webinar today. We're delighted to be announcing our next business transformation programme and giving you a bit of an update on some of the other calls. So I'm joined by my colleagues Lynn McIntosh and Claire Canning, who will also provide further information on the programmes. We'll kick off with a couple of slides just to cover the background of OWGP, and I'll give you a bit of an introduction to the growth partnership. Lynn will then carry on the presentations describing the details of the Wind Expert Support Toolkit, a programme that was launched at the start of the week, and we're now open for applications. And then Claire is going to follow up with further details of the current funding calls that are open. So that's ordered today. Plenty of time for Q&As at the end. There's a Q&A box at the bottom. If you put questions as you go along into that, so that we can answer those as you go along. I'd prefer if you use the Q&A box. That means we can answer the questions rather than the chat box, which is also there. So just to avoid confusion, if you use the Q&A box as the preferred way of putting questions in, that means they get captured and we can answer them in terms of FAQ documents afterwards. Just another note, the call is being recorded, and that's so that we can release that to other people who weren't able to make the webinar to provide further information. So that's the running order for this afternoon. I'll give you a quick overview of OWGP and then I'll pass over to Lynn. So I'll keep this one quite brief because hopefully a lot of you are familiar with the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. But essentially the OWGP came about as part of the sector deal, which was signed about 18 months ago between government and industry. As part of that, government's provided a firm pipeline of offshore wind in the UK, and industry has committed to increasing UK content in projects and increasing export. And as part of that, the Growth Partnership is set up to support UK companies, particularly around UK content, increased exports, but we're also looking for increases in jobs and turnover of UK companies. So OWGP is set up as an independent company. It's funded by the Offshore Wind Industry Council members with a budget of £100 million over the next 10 years. So it's a long-term business transformation programme helping supply chain companies. In terms of delivery, it's the ORE Catapult that's delivering the programme. So myself, Claire and Lynn are the delivery team within the Catapult for the programme. I'll talk a bit about the aims overall. So the high-level view of what the Growth Partnership is trying to do is divided into kind of 4 strands. So the first area that is being looked at is how we can increase collaborative work between the developers and industry. And that part is broadly developer-led activity, looking at bilaterals between developers and the supply chain. The other 3 strands are very much led by the Growth Partnership team. And it's really all about strand B, which is making companies better and helping them become more competitive and more productive in order to win more contracts. Strand C, which is about bringing in new entrants, bringing in new technology and new companies to increase the number of UK companies within the sector. And then strand D is about embedding IP within UK companies to ensure that there's a sustainable future for companies within the supply chain. So that's the kind of aims, and everything that we do revolves around those 4 strands. In terms of actually delivering those, there's 2 main ways that we deliver activity. One is through business transformation, and that's where we're providing expertise into companies in order to help them to improve what they're doing. And the second way is by providing grants into companies so that they can run programs themselves to help themselves improve and develop what they're doing. So there's the 2 kind of flavors, one where we're providing expertise and people, and the other where we're providing cash into companies in order to support them. So today we're going to talk about predominantly about business transformation, and then we'll talk about the WEST program, the Wind Expert Support Toolkit. There also is the Sharing and Growth program, which is the high level program. And again, Lynn will touch on that. And then on the grant funding side, Claire will give us an update on where we are in terms of the funding. So at that point, that's hopefully enough of an introduction to set the scene and the context. I'll pass over Lynn if you want to talk us through the WEST program.
Thanks very much, Andy. As Andy mentioned, my name is Lynn McIntosh and I'm a Programme Manager for the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. Delighted to be here today to take you through our business transformation programme, our first business transformation programme to be launched as part of our activities as OWGP. As Andy already mentioned, OWGP, we're focusing on activities which allow us to support UK supply chain companies and new entrants, as well as cross-sector companies and organisations. And one of the ways that we will be doing that is by launching a number of business transformation programmes. So our business transformation programmes will be operating at various different levels, and those levels are really there to reflect the maturity, the size, the scale of different companies in different parts of their journey into the offshore wind sector. These are at the moment foundation, intermediate and advanced programmes. And as I say, one of the things that is really crucial about these business transformation programmes and how they're reflected is that at a foundation level, we would expect that the return on investment would be relatively low, but in turn, the amount of investment that we would be putting into each of the programmes is low, and it would progressively get more intense and provide further input and funding as you go up the different levels of the programme. In terms of today, we're here today to provide a little bit of input and guidance on our most recent business transformation programme, WEST, which is the Wind Expert Support Toolkit, which I'll tell you a little bit more about now. So WEST is at our foundation level support, which will provide short-term and needs-focused intervention to supply chain companies. It's aimed at providing a bespoke and targeted support to companies based on their needs and will be delivered by expert consultants or expert delivery partners. The programme is really about providing a helping hand to companies to understand how they best would fit into the offshore wind sector, or providing guidance on networking, for example, or even it might be that helping with a business case or another future opportunity. So the overall objective of WEST is to support companies to become more competitive within the offshore wind sector by providing a framework and structure to business improvement. Additionally, we also want to encourage new entrants and cross-sector companies to engage with the programme and to understand where their products and services may fit within the offshore wind landscape. The programme will additionally provide us as OWGP with further understanding on what the needs of the supply chain are currently. And that will allow us to better develop future offerings and business transformation best aligned to those needs of companies in the UK. Initially, the pot for funding will be £200,000, and we anticipate to be helping and supporting around 30 companies in the initial pilot launch of WEST. So in terms of who's this for, who can get involved, well, we've left this quite broad, and at the moment we're looking for companies across kind of three large different areas. So we're looking for startup companies who perhaps wish to work in the offshore wind sector. We're looking for established companies who work in other sectors who may be looking to transition into the offshore wind sector, and also companies who are already involved in the offshore wind sector who perhaps require more focused support or strategic direction to enhance their growth and productivity. In terms of the scope, I mentioned at the outset of the slides that WEST is a needs-based intervention activity. And trying to explain what that means, I thought I would break this down into a couple of slides. So in developing the programme, we explored the types of burning question, you could say, that are common needs of supply chain companies either wishing to grow or enter into an unfamiliar sector. These that are on the screen just now could be some examples of the potential needs that a company may have. So for example, how to certify a product for the offshore wind sector, or how do we even approach an exit strategy if they're already in the sector? How do I understand what my customers and competitors might do or might need? So in doing the analysis and as part of the development of the programme, we've developed other needs like this, and there are 23 in total. These are 23 needs which applicants can reflect upon and decide upon their own position in relation to those needs. We also do appreciate that 23 needs might not capture the full spectrum of needs that any company might encounter, and therefore we've made allowances for this within our application process to ensure that companies can adequately capture their needs appropriately, and hopefully we are able to meet as many of those needs as we can. So in terms of providing a bit more guidance for the application itself, companies would be invited to submit an expression of interest application, which is available on our website, and I'll show you where that is later on. And as I mentioned, we would be looking for companies to express which needs are most appropriate or most applicable to them as a company. As part of the application form, the companies would be asked to identify their top 5 needs from the list, or by including their own needs. This gives us a better understanding of, let's say, those burning needs, those things that need to be addressed first, in order for us to be able to focus our attention and adequately meet those needs. During the delivery phase, successful applicants will have a minimum of 2 company needs met, addressed by our expert consultants who will be working in partnership with Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. During the delivery of the programme, we will be monitoring the success or monitoring the progress of the applicant companies in line with our own KPIs. And the intervention activities, which will be led by our expert consultants, will be delivered over a period of 6 to 8 weeks. And we need to ensure that applicant companies have appropriate bandwidth to be able to cover and support those activities. I must stress that although the duration of the support will be around 6 to 8 weeks, the expert delivery partners will not be on site for that amount of time, and indeed it will be an effort of around 2 to 10 days to be able to meet each of the needs of the supply chain companies. In terms of eligibility, there are a number of different aspects to eligibility which need to be considered as part of an application. So in order to be supported through WEST, we would expect companies to be a registered company of any size. And please note that on this occasion, we are not accepting applications from academic institutions or research and technology organisations. We need companies to be able to provide a clear intent to diversify their business into the offshore wind sector, or to demonstrate how they wish to grow their capability within the sector. We also would like companies to be able to understand their own needs and deficiencies, and as a business have a proactive attitude towards business improvement. We need companies to provide detailed information to ourselves and the expert consultants in order to support them. And we would ask that each applicant company only makes one application to this wave of support. We also would hope that each company would provide and demonstrate how the intervention will impact their business and provide additionality to their company as a result of having their needs met. So within the application itself, there are 4 main questions, and there are 4 categories which those questions can be placed into. And these align very nicely with our scope and guidance and our scoring criteria. We're really looking for companies who can clearly articulate what they currently do, and also to be reflective of the challenges they face. We understand and we're very sympathetic to the fact that many businesses will have been adversely affected by COVID-19, but what we want to know is, how are you planning to do things differently? Do you have ideas that you can share? Or, you know, what we need to ensure is that we understand that some companies from other sectors may want to transition into the offshore wind sector, but we're really looking for you to be able to provide us with a clear understanding of why and what you think you can offer to the sector. We need to, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, ensure that there's alignment with our own KPIs to driving productivity and growth in the UK offshore wind sector. And we therefore need to understand your level of ambition and how you believe that you will be able to align with our KPIs. It's also very important for you to clearly articulate your company's desire to embrace change and constructive feedback. Understanding your culture and approach to improvement as a business is therefore important in your application. The application form itself is fairly self-explanatory. There is quite a lot of help within the form itself. In order to help you, there are prompts within the application form, and we would strongly encourage that you use those prompts to shape your questions and the responses that you provide. Please make sure that you don't leave any of the fields blank, as failure to complete the application will result in us struggling to assess that appropriately. In terms of the submission itself, really the devil's in the detail. So there are some instructions within the scope and guidance documents that are available on our website. Please ensure that when you submit your application that you've reviewed and completed the application to the highest quality that you can, and that you haven't omitted any answers. Please make sure that any changes that you've made to the application have been saved, and that you give yourself the best possible opportunity for success. We would ask that you send the submissions to us by email, and we will confirm receipt of having having received your application. In terms of the timelines, obviously we've already opened the applications on Monday this week, and we're having the briefing today, so that's point 2. The applications will close on the 2nd of October, Friday the 2nd of October at 5 p.m. Please ensure that if you wish to make a submission that you have completed your submission before and sent it to us before 5 p.m. We will then notify applicants by the 16th of October on the outcome of their application. So in terms of the assessment and delivery, just to give a little bit of background, the applications will be reviewed by assessors, and the assessors will be scoring the applications based on the evaluation criteria on the answers that you've provided in your application form. So please ensure that you refer to the documents and the weightings of each of the scores in the scope and guidance document. And as I said, applicants will be notified of a decision via email and will receive some feedback. It's really important that applicants understand their responsibilities before applying. So applicants would be expected, if successful, to provide an internal champion or project manager to be able to manage the relationship between themselves and OWGP and the expert consultants. We would also expect companies to be able to provide and commit a commensurate internal resource to being able to help address and meet their needs. We would like companies to be able to provide us as OWGP with feedback on any major milestones or major wins that you have gained following our engagement together, and provide feedback to the programme team on the impact of the intervention. We also would like to be able to share success stories with our board and more widely in social media. So we would ask companies to consider that before applying. We would like to be able to share as many good news stories as possible. So just to briefly recap, companies, if you wish to make a submission, you would complete your expression of interest and submit that to ourselves. We will select a range of companies based on the scope and guidance document, eligibility and criterias. We'll pair successful companies with an expert consultant, and the consultant will liaise with the company to ensure that it understands and is able to meet short-term needs. We'll then come up with a plan to best deliver against those needs, and then the work will be published and provided back to the successful applicant with recommendations for next steps and how to continue some of the work that has been proposed. And just a reminder that the application deadline is the 2nd of October. So plenty to think about there in terms of the WEST programme. But what else do we have in terms of business transformation, and what else are we planning? I thought it would be a good opportunity to provide a little bit more detail on one of the other programmes that we will be launching very soon through our business transformation programme. And this programme is Sharing in Growth. So the Sharing in Growth Offshore Wind programme is at the advanced level of our business transformation programme. And excuse me, the idea of Sharing in Growth is to build upon the very successful Sharing in Growth programme that has been delivered by the Sharing in Growth team for around the last 8 or 9 years in the aerospace sector, take those learnings and implement those in the offshore wind sector. Again, and very similarly, this revolves around an assessment of a company's needs, and then a very bespoke and expert support to be able to tackle strategic priorities within each company. And then addressing those particular needs with the company, but over a longer period of time, around 6 to 9 months. This particular programme, as I say, is an advanced programme, and therefore we would expect this to be entered into by companies who are already existing in the offshore wind sector, with a site turnover of 5 million to 100 million pounds per annum. It's important that we have applications from ambitious companies who are looking to commit themselves to accelerate growth, and also who have senior leadership buy-in to this commitment. So, as I say, we'll be launching this very soon, hopefully within the next week. And if there are companies, if you yourselves are within that bracket, or know of companies who would potentially benefit from that, please do get in touch and we'd be happy to hear more from you. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Claire Canning, who's going to provide a bit of an update on the funding calls that we have live at the moment. Claire.
Thanks very much, Lynn. Okay, so I am going to give a little recap on some of the funding opportunities that we have through the Offshore Wind Growth Partnership. If we could move to the next slide. Excellent. So many of you might be already aware of these calls or joined the previous webinar, but we had launched 2 calls in June, July of this year. One is the open call, which was all about improving competitiveness and driving innovation across the UK supply chain in offshore wind. It was very much in line with strands B and D that we went through at the beginning of the webinar there, and really all about helping companies to think about new processes or ways of working that will help them improve their competitiveness or focus towards innovation, so thinking about disruptive technologies and products and services that could lead to game-changing solutions in the sector. So this particular call, I won't dwell on it because it's actually closed. So this closed last week. But what I will say is for the open call, we will be looking to launch further open calls probably towards the end of this year. So do keep an eye out if this is the sort of thing that might interest you or might be useful for your business. We will be planning to launch further open calls in due course. In terms of the timescales for the open call, the stage 1, as I said, has now closed. And for any of you that have submitted to this particular call, you'll be notified tomorrow if you've been successful to carry on to the next stage of the application process. So the next call, which is actually still open at the moment, and I think aligns quite nicely with the business transformation programs that Lynn spoke about, is the cross-sector support call. And this is all about building new capacity and helping the diversification of companies into the offshore wind sector. So we've got 2 kind of focus areas for this particular call. One is focused on manufacturing, so helping to build new manufacturing capacity in offshore wind by helping UK businesses that have existing capability in other sectors, so the likes of oil and gas, aerospace, automotive, nuclear, bringing that capability into offshore wind and helping to de-risk those processes. The other focus area is towards the technology side, so helping innovative engineering companies to de-risk technologies, products or services for offshore wind through things like testing, validation, demonstration. So that call, as I mentioned, is still live, and we've got a total funding pot there of 300k. So the deadlines for that particular call is 18th of September, so there's still plenty of time to apply. And all of the information can be found on our website, and we'll provide links to that after the webinar. Any questions on that, on the funding calls, feel free to come to me directly.